Homelite Super XL with a Tillotson carburetor. I am in the process of removing the carburetor because the low screw is adjusted so loose that it wants to fall out. And you can see where the idle screws ran all the way up in there to keep it idling. So there's obviously something going on inside the carburetor. So I'm getting ready to do a rebuild. I'm gonna try to shoot a couple videos here and there and put them together and show you how I do this. Alrighty? So there we go, a Tillotson. So I found a problem on the reeds. I'm going through this and very meticulously inspecting it, but right now you don't see any issues. See the little metal strips? Those are your reeds. They're like little valves that open up and allow the fuel through. But watch what happens as I keep turning here. You're going to see one of them has a piece of it missing. And if you look, you can actually see, you know, the camera ain't showing, but I can actually see through. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. And it's not a part I would typically buy new, because I have one sitting here. I basically have some spare part saws, and I already had one pulled out of another saw, and this one just needs cleaned up. Looks like it'll be good to go. Now there is a difference, so I don't know if I'll have to do this or not, but you see this little notch right here where my thumb's tapping? That is not on the other one. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I'll show you. I mean, they're similar. See where the notch, it's different. It's right here, this area here. It's a little bit different, but that black piece there, it does come off, and I imagine I can just switch that part out if needed. So, because you can, let me try to do this with one hand. They will separate there, you see, they will separate. So I could probably just separate them and move it over, and if needed I can even pull the reed off. I think if I separate it, you can kind of see how they're assembled. So I could just change out one of the reeds if needed. One way or another. Well, there, one just fell out. The other one's falling out. But you can see there, it's not going to be an issue to fix. I have the spare parts. First problem discovered. So here's the carburetor removed. I've just been going over it and just seeing if I see anything unusual, and nothing seems to pop out. So I'm going to keep moving forward. One thing to note here are the two jets, because one's a high and one's a low. One has a notch on it and one doesn't, so I want to remember that. And the one without a notch is in the low side. I'm going to check and make sure they're in the right place whenever I pull them out and go to reassemble. I do remember from pulling one apart before that one has, like, goes out to a nice perfect needle, and the other one does not. It has like a step on it. So I'll show you that after I get it apart. As long as this is the same, because the other one I remember I've done was I think it was a Zuma or whatever they're called. So this is my first Tillotson. Alrighty. Alright, so I got it apart, I think, as far as I'm going to take it. There's the carburetor. This is the back side. Here, I'll get a screwdriver point. But this is the back side. This is your choke right here. Actually, I got it upside down. So there you go. That's right side up. This is the top of the carb right here. This is the top. This is your choke. Here's where your choke lever hooks up. Fuel line in, throttle. Pretty simple, right? See all the little holes? I do not know what these holes do. I just know there's a bunch of holes for the most part. It's got a channel through different ways to make everything function properly, and you just want to make sure that everything's, you know, good and clear and free. So up here is the mounting screws. They will go through the back from here. This is the pin that was used to hold the choke on. These are the screws for the diaphragm side. Magnetic screwdrivers. All right, and these are the screws for, I think they call it the pump. This part here, I'm not sure. I always call it the pump, but I don't even know if what it is really. I just know they go bad. I'm more of the person who just changes parts as they need changed, but I don't really know what what it's called. But I'm going to call it a pump. Correct me if I'm wrong. Here's the replacement pieces. So if you look close, this is actually 2 gaskets sandwiched together, one on top of the other. And here's the 2 replacement gaskets. And I actually have them sitting backwards here, so this one is actually the bottom. This one on the bottom, as you can see up here. And that all goes on here. So technically the thin one goes first. It sits down on first, and then the thick one would sit on top of it. All right. Here's my jets. This is the high jet. See how she comes out to a nice point. See how crusty it is. You get a good view of that. A little crusty. Here's the low jet. So it's got more of a step on the point. Good and crusty. Here's the diaphragm. This is probably the biggest issue I got, or one of them. There's 2 major two big problems I said, or 3 actually. I noticed the reed issue, which I doubt it would change much of a difference in the performance, but there is an issue with the reed I just showed. Look at the diaphragm. Look how stiff it is. Hardly wants to move. And I got footage of this saw running just to give you an idea how stiff this diaphragm is. And the saw still ran. Look at that. Doesn't even want to move. Here's the new one. And if you can see, I mean, see how flexible that is? Look how stiff this is. This is basically like a, well, personally, well, I guess it would be working more like the pump. This would be, I guess, your pump, because it moves in and out to allow fuel in and out. So the compression will suck on the diaphragm, allowing full flow through and all that sort of stuff. So maybe the 2 ends work in tandem. Well, that's obviously bad. No obvious problems here at the needle, or the whatever jet you'd want to call that. If it was a small engine, I'd call it the bull float needle jet or whatever. I'm not sure how you call these. I don't know, a little dirty. And here's some other new gaskets. This gasket here goes with the diaphragm. If you look close, you see the diaphragm gasket, and then the other one's on top of it, sandwiched. See, diaphragm, and then this one goes on top of it. Another interesting point, to turn it over. See these? Okay. These, the big one was in here and the little one was here. Okay. Don't see much of a problem here, but look at this one. You can see down in there, it's all brown. See that hole down in there? That was actually plugged clean shut. I got poking around down there and opened the hole up, and here I discovered that was clogged clean shut. So that's the other big problem I noticed. So this, I'm not sure what it is, but it was clogged completely up. So there you go, there's another problem that I was having. And over here's the new ones. See there's screens there? Whenever I pulled these out, there were no screens in there. None. So I don't know if they came from the factory without screens and they send you screens with your rebuild kits. I don't know. But I'm going to put the screens in. And there's all my replacement parts that I got left in there. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to soak it in solution for a day. And then I'm going to run compressed, like the aerosol form of carb cleaner through every little hole and crevice you see in there and try to make sure everything's cleaned out good. If I need to, I'll soak it for another day. But this is the first day of my carb rebuild. This is usually a 2-day project because I soak them overnight. You can see it doesn't look that filthy. It just, this hole was clogged up. You see down in there? You see it? What I did when I was poking around, I had this jet here. I started poking around down in that hole, and then I discovered she opened right up. That's how I discovered it. So it looked like it was full of mud. But there you go, day one. Next thing is to make sure my gaskets are pulled off, all the parts, and soak it overnight in solution. And if you're wondering what my solution is for cleaning carbs, you might laugh, but it's right here. That's my solution. Works pretty good. I will say, do not use this unless you have the part completely submerged. If you leave any amount of this aluminum exposed overnight or anything, it will turn black. And then you got a chore getting that off. But I know the part that soaks overnight comes out super clean, and anything that's not covered by it will turn black. I believe the fumes might be a little acidic to the aluminum and corroded it a little bit. So, alrighty, I'm gonna get these parts soaking, and we'll see the rest of this assembly whenever I return. Alright, so I got my parts soaking, but just something to point out, whenever I drop a carburetor in to soak, I always try to flip it around a few times and get it stirred up, just to let the air bubbles out. Just a little point of thought there, just for you guys who do it this way. Flip it around a couple times, get the air bubbles out. That way you get the solution worked all the way through it. And this is just pine sol that I'm using. You'll get to see how she looks like tomorrow when I pull it out. All right. You'd be amazed how good pine sol works. Alrighty, till tomorrow. So if you're wondering if pine sol works, it's been 5 minutes since I dropped these parts in here. See it working? See, I don't know what you'd call that. You can definitely tell there's a reaction. Let me turn around and see if you can see anything on the other side. See it happening? We'll see what this looks like tomorrow. This is not my first time. I did a motorcycle like this. Big old, an 850cc complete rebuild. Pulled carburetors out of a junkyard and soaked them in pine sol for 2 days. So this is not my first time, but I wanted to share this. Alrighty, I could sit here and watch this for days. I wonder what that process is called. Any of you know? Or what we're seeing? Almost looks like it's acid eating away at it, but I don't know. Yep. Just enjoying the moment. Sharing the moment, I guess you could say. Watching the Pines Hole work. Alrighty. Till tomorrow. So, it's been about 90 minutes since I showed that last video, or that last little clip of this cleaner work. And you can see the changes now. It's still working. But look at the changes. Things are starting to get a little shinier. Like that screw had like those bubbles or whatever you want to call it all over it before. It's clean. It looks like it's cleaned up pretty good. See this one? See how this one's going? Let me turn it around. You'll notice more on the carburetor side, I think. Take a look. See that choke hookup, whatever you call it, that arm for the choke, it had all sorts of bubbles coming off of it. And where the fuel line hooked up. See the difference there? Now, especially at the fuel line, this should give you evidence that Pine Sol dissolves old gas. Because I believe that was just the old gas that was getting dissolved and causing all those little bubbles. I could be wrong though, but it's working. And it's only been 90 minutes. And it's probably going to be another 20 hours until I'm actually pulling this out to rinse it down and check it and see if it needs to soak longer. Alrighty, this is where we stand right now. Alright, so I'm back home from work. There's everything still soaking away. I'm going to give it a rinse and see how she looks. Now the cleaner, I'm just going to dump it right back in the original bottle, and I'll use it again for the next time. So there it is. Let me turn it around. Looking pretty good. All right, let me give it a rinse and we'll see how it looks. So here we go. It's all rinsed off. You can see this one. This here is the mounting, or the whatever, the bolt should mount it to the motor. Here's my screws, all cleaned up. There's that spring, and I don't know what that's called. It's part of the on-off needle valve, I guess you'd call it. That all that's part of what works with the diaphragm. Here's my high and low jets. Let's see if I can get out here to get it in focus. Cleaned up pretty good. Springs for the jets. Here's the top of the carb. Or the top plate or top cover. This one here is what the diaphragm goes on. Here's the actual carburetor. Now this is only a soak. I did not spray it with the high pressure carb cleaner. This is just a soak. And I don't think I'm going to need to. I mean, nothing is showing me signs that I should need to spray it. So I doubt I will. Here's the other end. If you can see down in there, that hole that was plugged up, it's opened up real well now. I'm not sure what's in there. That one part there is a clip, and I don't remember being able to see that before. I'm not going to pull that out. I'm just going to leave it be. But I don't remember being able to see that clip before. I'll have to look at the other video. But it's opened up nice and good, and I realized that it's connected to the high, so you can clearly see that there's plenty of flow through there. See how it's connected to the high? Definitely going to flow. You can see the daylight, so I'm not worried about it that much. You can see there's pretty much no dirt left. I was blowing through the holes just to push the water out. And this one here that was plugged up was my main concern, and I see no signs of it being clogged up anymore. All I did was soak it in pine salt for 24 hours. So there you go. I think it's time for a reassembly. What do you think? Okay, so I'm going to just kind of show you how I got to do this, since I only got one hand to work with. This gasket's going to be first. It feels like it's maybe Delrin or something like that. Maybe PVC. So that gasket's first. Then this one is going to lay right on top. And then this is going to go on top of that. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put some screws in there, so you're going to have to wait a minute till I come back. Alright, so now I'm going to start reassembling this side, and I'll kind of show you what I got to do here. There's a little screen right here. It is going to go in this hole, and then this little thing here will go on top of it with the rounded part facing straight up in the air. Then I'll put this screen in here with this rounded part on top, sticking straight up in the air. And then after they're on, I gotta like tap the rounded part, because it's kind of shaped like a hat, I guess you could say. And you tap it to seat it and make it nice and firm. And then after that, I got to install this. It's kind of like a jet. It's got a rubber tip on it. It helps. It's to stop and start the flow of fuel. I'm going to install the new clip that holds to it. And there is a screw, this screw here, that holds it down in. Alrighty? And there's also this rod here and this little spring that go in there. They kind of all go together. I'll try to show you, but I only got one hand, so I'll show you after it's put together. All right, so there I got the I guess they call it the metering valve, or the metering. And in my research to figure out how to adjust it, they were calling it a metering valve. So there you go, metering valve assembly or whatever. Now to adjust it, you run the screw, or you're supposed to run a flat edge, but I just used this screwdriver across the top edge, and you should just barely have a gap between it and this part right here. And I can tell you, I can see daylight, but it's a very small amount. Maybe not quite the thickness of a sheet of paper, I bet. I'm just gonna leave it there and see how she goes. I think I'm close enough. But you just bend it until you get it set just right. So that's how I did it. You can see it's not touching, but I can see daylight through it. Alrighty, so there's that part. Now I got these installed as well. This one was a pain in the butt. It just didn't want to go in right. And this one went in real smooth. So that's all installed. There's a screen under these and these little caps on top. Alrighty, time for the diaphragm install. Now just a little something to point out. The little thing right here on the diaphragm, you have to get it to clip into here. If you don't do that, it's not going to work, or not work right. All right, so just a little tip there. Make sure you get that. See, there's a little groove on there, and it needs to clip into there. Very important. All right, time for the next part. There you go. All installed. Next, I'm going to do the high and low jets. The springs go on, and then I'm going to install the high and low jets. They go in right here. Okay, here's the high jet side. You can see the H and the L's over here. And if you remember from before, this is the high jet, and this other one's the low jet. Alrighty, so there we go. Both jets are installed. Now, to start out with, you're probably wondering about adjusting these. If not, then you probably know more than I do. But if you're wondering about the adjustment, I run them all the way in until they seat all the way, and just kind of, just until I feel them seat. And then I'm going to start out by unscrewing it one full turn and then another quarter of a turn. So that's how I'm going to start off with both of these jets. And that should get the saw started. And then I can fine tune it from there. So there's the carb reassembled. If you're wondering how much time it takes, if I wasn't using the camera, I'd probably have it reassembled in 15-20 minutes. Just to give you an idea. It went together pretty fast. All right. So now it's just for reinstalling it on the saw and getting the saw started up and tuning it. Alrighty, so there we go. One Tillotson carburetor rebuilt. Alright, so there you go. She's all installed. I have the auto screw ran all the way out. I'll probably have to make some adjustments there. Brand new fuel line, but everything is on. All that's left to do is to fire it up and tune it. As long as everything works out, we should have a good running saw. Alrighty. So, I gotta think. It's almost dark outside, so I'm gonna have to wait till another day to do that part. So, almost done.